Ladies and gentlemen, let's get one thing clear right now. A strong business doesn't happen by accident. It's not born from a trend, a one-time opportunity, or a moment of good luck. It is built brick by a leader who refuses to settle. A strong business is a direct reflection of strong leadership. You cannot build something sustainable if you, as the leader, are not solid yourself. So if you want a business that lasts, start by strengthening your mindset, your habits, your vision, and your follow-through. I talk to so many entrepreneurs who tell me, I just want to scale. And I say, scale what? If you don't have a solid foundation, scaling only multiplies your problems. It makes the holes bigger, not smaller. So let's slow down and get serious about what it actually means to build a strong business. It means clarity, it means resilience, it means systems, and it means doing the hard work daily, especially when it's not glamorous. Now here's where most people go wrong. They build without a vision, they chase sales but not strategy, they hire out of desperation, not intention. A strong business has a clear vision, and every single person on the team knows what winning looks like. If you want to be that kind of leader, then you better be able to communicate that vision so clearly that your people can repeat it in their sleep. Vision is not a poster on the wall. It's a compass that drives every decision, every meeting, and every product launch. And listen, none of it matters if you don't have the right people in the right seats. A strong business is powered by a team that believes in what you're building, not just people who show up for a paycheck. But people who show up with purpose. If your team isn't aligned, your business isn't strong. So what does that mean for you? It means you must be crystal clear on expectations, feedback, and accountability. Because you don't just lead people, you lead outcomes. Let's also talk about consistency. Because intensity might get you a viral moment, but consistency is what builds reputation. It's what builds customer trust. It's what builds recurring revenue. A strong business shows up on good days, bad days, and every day in between. Your systems can't depend on your mood. They have to run without you needing to be the hero every time something goes wrong. You cannot hustle your way out of every problem. At some point, the hustle has to evolve into structure, and that structure has to be strong. And that brings me to my last point. You do not scale chaos. You scale order, you scale processes, you scale what's measurable. So if you're winging it, if you're doing it all yourself, if you're afraid to hold people accountable because you want to be liked, you're not building a strong business. You're building a time bomb, and that's not leadership, that's avoidance. Here's the truth, and it might sting. The reason your business isn't where you want it to be is not because of the market, not because of the economy, and definitely not because of your team. It's because of how you are showing up, and that is the best news possible, because that means you have the power to change it. Strong businesses are not louder, they are smarter, they are simpler, they are systemized. And they are led by people who are willing to out-discipline, out-strategize, and outlast everyone else. So today, I'm not asking you to dream bigger, I'm asking you to build stronger. Start with your standards. Upgrade your systems, speak your vision, and lead like someone whose legacy depends on it. Because it does. Let's build something that lasts. Asterisk asterisk, strong businesses are built on strong leadership, not luck. Asterisk asterisk, written in the voice and motivational tone of Natalie Dawson, without headings or introduction. If you look at any business that's thriving, that's scaling, that's truly making an impact, you'll find a leader at the core who is solid, self-aware, and disciplined. The myth that successful businesses are built by being in the right place at the right time or by having some stroke of luck is not only false, it's damaging, because it makes people think that they're just one big break away from success. But the truth, there is no big break, there is only a big commitment. Strong businesses come from leaders who commit to showing up every single day, not when they feel like it, not when it's fun, and not when everything is going their way, but asterisk every asterisk single day. And that commitment is what separates strong businesses from struggling ones. Leadership is not about a title. You don't need to have CEO in your email signature to lead. You lead by example, by energy, by how you respond to pressure. Strong leadership isn't measured in how loud you are in meetings or how many people report to you. It's measured in the consistency of your actions, in the integrity of your decisions, in your ability to make tough calls when nobody's cheering you on. I've seen business owners sabotage their own teams because they lacked the emotional discipline to lead through hard seasons. I've seen incredible business models fall apart because the person steering the ship was reactionary, inconsistent, or so addicted to being liked that they couldn't hold a standard. That's not leadership. That's fear dressed in a power suit. To build a strong business, you must first build yourself. Your mindset is the thermostat for your company. If you're stressed, your team feels it. If you're disorganized, your business reflects it. If you're unclear, your culture is chaotic. You are always setting the tone. So if you want a hyper-forming team, you need to first become a hyper-forming individual. That means doing the work that no one sees. The reading, the thinking, the planning, the difficult conversations, it means holding yourself accountable with the same rigor you expect from your employees, because you can't demand excellence from others if you're not embodying it yourself. Strong leaders create clarity. They make sure that every person on the team knows exactly where the business is going and what's expected of them along the way. Confusion kills performance, and when leaders don't communicate clearly, teams fill in the blanks with their own stories. That's how resentment builds. That's how trust erodes. Leadership is communication, period. You can't afford to hide in your office or your inbox. You need to be visible, present, and intentional with how you lead your people. And you need to be unshakable in your vision, because if you're wobbly, everyone else will be too. A strong business isn't built in a sprint. It's built in the small, daily decisions that compound over time. It's in the way you run your meetings. It's in the way you onboard your new hires. It's in how quickly you address underperformance and how often you recognize excellence. It's not glamorous. It's often not fun. But it's what works, and when you do it consistently, it becomes your culture. You stop reacting and start leading. I've seen people try to outsource leadership. They want to hire someone to fix their culture or someone to drive their team's motivation. That's not how this works. You are the culture. You are the driver. You can't delegate leadership. You can multiply it, but it has to start with you. And if your business is struggling, don't look out the window. Look in the mirror. That's not about blame. It's about ownership. Because once you take ownership, you regain power. You start to realize that building a strong business isn't a mystery. It's a decision to lead with excellence every single day, no matter what. And here's what I'll say to anyone thinking, I'm not a natural leader. You don't need to be. Leadership is a skill, and skills are built through repetition. You get better by doing it badly, then learning, adjusting, and doing it better next time. You don't have to be charismatic. You have to be committed. You don't have to have all the answers. You have to be willing to find them. That's what strong leaders do. They take responsibility, they make decisions, and they never make excuses. They don't wait for momentum. They create it. So if you want a strong business, stop looking for secrets and shortcuts. Start strengthening your leadership, because when you grow, your business grows. When you raise your standards, your team rises with you. When you become unshakable in your values and relentless in your execution, the business you build will reflect that strength. It won't happen overnight. But it will happen if you lead like it matters, because it does. Let me know if you'd like expansions of the other keynotes or help formatting this for YouTube, LinkedIn, or email campaigns. Asterisk, asterisk, a clear vision backed by ruthless execution separates amateurs from CEO. Asterisk, asterisk, this is delivered in Natalie Dawson's tone. Bold, focused, results driven. Without headings or introduction, most people think having a vision is enough. They sit around with their team, write beautiful mission statements, plaster purpose-driven mantras across the wall, and think that alone will fuel their business to greatness. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Vision without execution is just a motivational poster. It's a fantasy. It's an empty promise to yourself and everyone around you. What separates leaders who build iconic businesses from the ones who just stay stuck in the cycle of average is not that they have a better idea. It's that they back their vision with consistent, relentless execution. The problem with most entrepreneurs is not that they're lazy, it's that they're distracted. They have 5 visions running at once. They're chasing the next opportunity, the next trend, the next new shiny idea, and they wonder why their team is confused. Their growth is unstable and their product is inconsistent. Let me tell you something, a real CEO doesn't operate that way. A real CEO picks one vision and executes it so clearly, so intentionally, that there is no room for doubt. That's what creates a powerful brand. That's what builds trust with customers. That's what scales revenue. Not noise, not movement, results. If your team cannot repeat your vision word for word, then you do not have a clear vision. If your calendar does not reflect your priorities, then you are not executing on your vision. And if your team's roles, goals, and performance metrics do not directly align with the outcome you say you want, then you're not a CEO, you're an idea generator. And let's be clear, ideas are cheap. Everyone has them. Execution is expensive. It costs discipline. It costs clarity. It costs you making uncomfortable decisions, saying no to things that don't align, and being laser focused even when you're tempted to pivot for comfort or excitement. You do not get to be a visionary leader without being an execution machine. That doesn't mean you have to do it all yourself, but it does mean you're responsible for creating the systems that guarantee things get done. It means you create alignment from top to bottom. Your vision informs your strategy breaks down into objectives, your objectives break into key results. And those results are tied to every single person on your team, what they do every day, how they're measured, and how they're held accountable. A clear vision does not mean you have everything figured out. It means you know what matters and you're not willing to compromise on that. When things go wrong, and they will, you don't abandon the plan, you adapt it. You lead through it. Amateurs panic and change direction. CEOs stay anchored and move forward. You cannot scale a business that's being steered by your emotions. You scale a business with a framework, a rhythm, and a commitment to relentless follow-through. Most businesses don't fail because the vision wasn't good. They fail because the vision was never executed, or worse, it was executed inconsistently. Consistency is your most powerful business advantage. When people know what to expect, they trust you. When your product delivers the same result every single time, people refer you. When your team knows exactly what's expected and what success looks like, they perform. But none of that happens without a CEO who is obsessed with making the vision real down to the last detail. It is not glamorous, it's not always exciting, but it's what works. Too many people are chasing momentum instead of mastering process. That's why their growth is chaotic. That's why their culture is confused, and that's why they can't scale without burning out. You don't rise to your level of ambition. You fall to the level of your systems. So if your execution isn't matching your vision, it's time to stop dreaming and start building. Let me give you a reality check. If your to-do list is full but your goals are blurry, you are not executing. You're reacting. If you spend all day in meetings but no one knows what the deliverables are, you're not leading. You're managing noise. Execution means results. Execution means ownership. Execution means you don't just launch something. You follow it through until it's optimized, until it's repeatable, until it's profitable. That's the difference between a CEO and everyone else. A CEO doesn't ask, is this exciting? They ask, is this aligned? They don't ask, will this go viral? They ask, does this move us closer to the mission? You have to lead with vision and execute with obsession. That's how businesses grow. That's how cultures shift. That's how teams perform. And it all starts with you being ruthlessly committed to turning your vision into reality. You don't need a bigger dream, you need a better execution plan. Get clear, get focused, and then get it done. Every day without fail, because that's what separates amateurs from CEO. Let me know when you're ready for Keynote 3's expansion, or if you'd like this formatted for platforms like YouTube or podcast intros. Communication is not about speaking more, it's about speaking with precision, clarity, and intent. When CEOs speak, they don't ramble, they don't speak to fill the silence, they speak with purpose, and every word earns its space. The difference between someone who sounds like a leader and someone who just sounds busy is the ability to eliminate verbal clutter. That means cutting out filler phrases like I think, maybe, kind of, just, and sorry but. Because these words do not inspire confidence, they dilute it. And in business, diluted communication equals diluted leadership. If people don't believe in your voice, they won't follow your direction. It's as simple as that. Let's be honest, most people are addicted to over-explaining because they're insecure about how they'll be perceived. So instead of owning their authority, they hide behind disclaimers, they soften their point, they add layers of fluff to sound more likable, more palatable, more safe. But CEO aren't hired to make people feel comfortable, they're hired to drive clarity, decisions, and results. That doesn't mean being rude. It means being unmistakable. It means when you speak, people know exactly what you mean, what matters most, and what action needs to be taken. Every time you speak as a leader, you are either building credibility or losing it. If you want to speak like a CEO, you need to speak in outcomes. Don't just talk about what's happening, talk about what needs to happen. Be specific, be structured, be strategic. When you're in a meeting and someone asks for your input, don't trail off with a vague observation or a passive opinion. Speak in terms of goals, metrics, and impact. That's how decisions are made. That's how trust is built. That's how influence is scaled. The way you communicate should reflect the size of the problems you're solving. That's why CEO don't get bogged down in irrelevant details. They zoom out. They communicate at the level of vision and execution. So if you find yourself obsessing over minutiae in meetings, ask yourself, is this the conversation I should be leading, or should I be directing the people who lead these conversations? That's a major shift from employee thinking to executive thinking. Employees share updates, CEO drive outcomes, employees describe problems, CEO defines solutions, and let's talk about tone because how you say something matters just as much as what you say. You can have the smartest strategy in the room, but if you deliver it with shaky energy or apologetic language, no one will take it seriously. Your tone has to match your position. That doesn't mean being the loudest. It means being the clearest. A powerful voice is one that doesn't waver. It doesn't rush. It holds space. If you want to be heard, stop talking like you need permission. You don't. You're the one driving the mission forward. Own that space. Speaking like a CEO also means knowing when not to speak. Strategic silence is just as powerful as strategic speech. CEO listen more than they talk because they're gathering insight, watching body language, and assessing alignment. You can't do that if you're always filling the air. When you do speak, make it matter. Make it so clear that nobody walks away guessing what you meant. That is how execution happens. That is how teams stay aligned. And that is how cultures shift from confusion to clarity. If you want to develop this skill, start by auditing your own voice. Record your meetings. Listen to how often you say just, maybe, I feel like, or I don't know if this makes sense, but. These are habits that kill your credibility. Replace them with direct declarative language. We will do this by Friday. This decision aligns with our Q3 goals. This is the metric that matters, as simple, clean, and firm. That's how leaders speak, because when your team hears that kind of clarity, they rise to it, they match it, they execute against it, and it doesn't stop in the boardroom. Speaking like a CEO means showing up in every conversation, emails, Slack messages, public speaking, performance reviews with the same level of intention. You don't turn it on and off, it's who you are. It's how you lead. When people hear your voice written or spoken, they should feel direction, confidence, and momentum. That's what drives performance, that's what moves teams, that's what scales a vision. You have to train this skill. It won't happen overnight, but the more you practice, the more it becomes second nature, and suddenly people listen differently. You don't have to repeat yourself. You don't have to chase buy-in. You earn it because your voice leads with clarity. You don't just talk, you command attention. You don't just speak, you move the room. That is what it means to speak like a CEO. One of the most powerful shifts you can make in how you communicate as a leader is by being willing to say less, but mean more. A CEO doesn't waste their voice. They don't jump into every discussion. They're not there to prove they're the smartest person in the room. They already know the value they bring, and that shows up in how they choose their moments. Real leadership doesn't need to dominate conversations. It needs to drive outcomes. So when you speak, it should feel like a signal, not noise, and that means knowing when to be silent. Silence is one of the most underrated tools in leadership communication. Why? Because it creates space. Space for others to contribute, for new ideas to emerge, for tension to rise and reveal what needs to be addressed. People who rush to fill silence are usually uncomfortable with what might come up if they don't. But CEO are not uncomfortable with silence. They use it. They own it. They understand that some of the most critical moments in business are not about talking, they're about listening. Listening to what's not being said. Listening to how a room reacts. Listening for alignment or hesitation. Listening to truly hear, not just to reply. A leader who is always talking misses what's actually going on. And more importantly, they create a culture where people talk over each other, where communication becomes reactive rather than intentional. CEO break that cycle by modeling restraint. When you pause, people lean in. When you stop talking, people start paying attention. Your silence builds pressure, the good kind, the kind that makes people think more carefully, reflect more deeply, and speak with more intention. That is a mark of high-performance culture, and it starts with you. When you speak like a CEO, you're not trying to be liked, you're trying to be effective. And effectiveness doesn't always come from saying the perfect thing. It often comes from saying the right thing at the right moment and saying it with confidence. You don't need to wrap your message in 3 layers of context or overly empathetic disclaimers. Be human, yes. Be kind always, but don't confuse kindness with vagueness. Speak in full ownership. Here's what I need from you. This is what matters most. We're behind, and this is what we're going to do about it. Clear. Direct, strong. One of the best ways to know if you're speaking like a CEO is to ask yourself, are people walking away more clear than they were before I spoke? Are they aligned? Do they know what's expected? Do they feel urgency? If not, it's not just their fault for not listening, it's your fault for not leading. Communication is your job, and clarity is your responsibility. This doesn't mean you talk more to clarify. It means you talk better. Fewer words, more impact. Fewer explanations, more decisions. CEO don't micromanage conversations. They guide them, and that requires you to be thoughtful with your voice. You are not just someone with opinions, you are someone who sets standards. That means you have to communicate in a way that reflects those standards. Raise your bar and your voice will follow. Every time you walk into a meeting, you have the opportunity to either reinforce your leadership or weaken it. If you talk too much, repeat yourself, or let your emotions hijack your tone, you lose credibility. If you speak with calm command, deliver facts, make decisions, and invite productive dialogue, you earn respect. And that respect multiplies over time. Suddenly, people aren't just listening to you, they're looking to you. They adjust to your pace. They sharpen their communication because of how you sharpen yours. That's how leadership scales. When you speak like a CEO, you also manage your energy. You don't match chaos with chaos. You don't let urgency become anxiety. You anchor the room. That comes from intentional word choice, thoughtful pauses, and decisive tone. This is not about perfection, it's about presence. Are you present in the moment? Are you listening fully? Are you reading the room while delivering your message? The more you do that, the more powerful your voice becomes, not because you're louder, but because you're more grounded. Your calm becomes contagious. Your clarity becomes culture. If you want to speak like a CEO, don't wait for the title. Start now. Practice in one-on-ones, in meetings, on email, on camera. Remove the fluff. Replace passive language with decisive statements. Trade volume for precision, and most importantly, trust the power of your silence, because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing, and let the weight of what you've already said land exactly the way it was meant to. The way you end a conversation as a leader tells me everything about the way you lead your team. A true CEO does not wrap up a meeting with uncertainty. There's no "let's circle back" without a time and date. There's no "maybe we can try" without an owner and a deadline. If you want to speak like a CEO, you must master the skill of leaving people with clarity, not confusion. The close is where leadership becomes execution. And the people who leave conversations with clear direction, expectations, and accountability are the ones who actually move things forward. Everyone else is just talking. There's a distinct difference between being liked in a conversation and being effective. And CEO are not hired to be liked. They are hired to get results. That means when you're finishing a conversation, you must bring energy, precision, and forward motion. No trailing off, no ambiguity. You are the signal that lets everyone else know, this is what we're doing next. When you close strong, you give your team the confidence to act without hesitation. You give them something to rally around. That's how you build momentum, and momentum is everything in business. If you're vague at the end of a conversation, what you're really doing is transferring your indecision to your team. You're handing them uncertainty, which creates friction, confusion, and delay. People walk away unsure of what's expected, tasks fall through the cracks, accountability disappears, and worst of all, trust erodes, because if you can't lead with clarity, how can they follow with confidence? Closing strong is not a communication style. It's a leadership standard. If you want to elevate your communication, it starts here. You also need to get really good at assigning ownership when you're wrapping things up. We should work on that becomes Rachel. I want you to take the lead on that by Friday. Let's look into it becomes James. Can you send me a plan by end of day tomorrow? Ownership is not just about assigning work, it's about assigning accountability. When people know something is theirs, they show up differently. And when you consistently close conversations by clearly delegating, your team starts self-organizing around outcomes, not ambiguity. That's where high-performance culture starts to take root. Now, let's talk tone, because the energy you bring in your final words becomes the energy your team leaves with. If you close with hesitancy, they walk away hesitant. If you close with clarity, they walk away focused. If you close with inspiration, they walk away energized. CEOs set that tone on purpose. They use their words as a signal to align, to elevate, and to drive. The meeting isn't over until it ends on your terms, clearly, confidently, and with intention. Even in difficult conversations, especially in difficult conversations, you must close with strength. If you're giving feedback, don't backpedal at the end. Don't soften the message until it loses its meaning. Stand firm, offer a path forward, and then end the conversation knowing you said what needed to be said. That's leadership. That's respect. That's what helps people grow. And when you model this, you teach your entire organization that honesty and clarity are not only allowed, they are expected. You should also start developing a few signature phrases that help you close conversations with consistency. Not scripts, just strong, clean language that reinforces your leadership. Statements like, let's lock that in, or great, that's the plan then. Or perfect, you've got next steps. Keep me posted by Wednesday. These phrases are small but powerful. They signal completion. They eliminate room for misinterpretation. They get people moving. And when you use them consistently, your team starts to anticipate clarity from you. That anticipation becomes alignment. Great leaders are not remembered for how many words they said. They're remembered for what their words made possible. Did they move people forward? Did they drive the business? Did they create a culture of clarity, ownership, and momentum? If you want to speak like a CEO, you need to earn the room in how you enter it, but you need to own the outcome in how you leave it. And that only happens when you treat every closing moment as a leadership moment. No matter how productive the meeting or conversation was, it doesn't matter if there's no clear path forward. Action is what makes leadership real, not potential, not brainstorming, not great energy. Execution, and execution starts with clarity. So be bold, be firm, be the person who always brings things to a clear conclusion. When your people know what to do, who's doing it, and when it's due, they start winning more often. And when your team wins, your entire business transforms. You don't need more meetings. You need more decisive communication. You don't need longer conversations. You need stronger closes. You don't need to be louder. You just need to be clearer. That's how you lead. That's how you scale. That's how you speak like a CEO.